If you've ever looked out at your garden and wished the soil could heal a little faster, wished your plants could grow fuller, greener, and stronger without the need for pricey products, then today's story might feel like a small miracle. Because sometimes the most powerful gardening secrets aren't hidden in fancy equipment or complicated formulas. They're tucked quietly inside the recycling bin, waiting for someone with a curious heart to notice. Imagine a cool morning on your porch. The air smells faintly of damp earth and coffee grounds. You hear the rustle of last night's breeze moving through the tomato vines. And right beside your chair, a stack of old cardboard boxes, the kind from online deliveries or cereal packages, sits waiting to be tossed. Most people see trash, but you, dear friend, are about to see the foundation of something alive. Cardboard composting isn't new, but it's one of those old-fashioned ideas that never quite got the attention it deserves. Maybe because it's too simple to sound impressive. No mechanical tumblers, no chemical accelerators, just plain humble cardboard and a bit of care. Yet this humble method can transform the health of your soil faster than most high-end composters ever could. Over the years, I've met gardeners who nearly gave up because their compost piles turned into smelly heaps or sat unchanged for months. They thought something was wrong with them when really it was the system that was too fussy. That's the beauty of this technique. It forgives. It breathes, and it works quietly beneath your hands like nature whispering, "Let me take care of this for you." So before you throw away another box, hold it for a moment. Feel its rough edges and think about how something so ordinary could give back so much life. You don't need money, youth, or fancy bins. You just need imagination, patience, and the willingness to trust that even the simplest materials can nourish the earth. If you've ever tried to start composting and ended up frustrated, you're not alone. Many gardeners begin with great intentions, dreaming of rich, dark compost, only to find a soggy, smelly mess or a dry, lifeless pile that just won't break down. We read advice online that sounds more like a chemistry class than a relaxing weekend hobby. Balance your carbon to nitrogen ratio, aerate twice a week, keep moisture at 60%. For most of us, that's enough to make us put down the shovel and walk away. I remember my neighbor Ruth, a retired teacher who loves her roses. She tried one of those fancy compost tumblers after seeing an ad that promised perfect compost in 30 days. 6 months later, she called me over to help open it, and what we found was a heavy, stinky barrel of half-rotted scraps. "I thought I did everything right," she sighed, pulling off her gloves. It wasn't her fault. Those systems often suffocate the compost instead of feeding it with oxygen. What nature needs is breath, not control. You see, the beauty of composting lies in partnership, not perfection. When we overcomplicate it, we forget that decomposition is one of Earth's most natural processes. Leaves fall, rain soaks them, and life begins again. Cardboard composting takes us back to that simplicity. No ratios to memorize, no special tools to buy, just layers of everyday materials working together as they should. The real challenge isn't learning the science, it's learning to trust the process. When you step back and let nature do what she's been doing for millions of years, the garden rewards you tenfold. And perhaps in that patience, we rediscover something more important than compost itself, the quiet rhythm of life that still moves beneath our fingertips. The secret hero of this story isn't glamorous. It's not a high-tech gadget or a bag of miracle fertilizer. It's plain brown cardboard, the kind that once held your groceries, your Amazon order, or the family's new coffee maker. Most folks see it as clutter, something to flatten and send off for recycling. But in the hands of a gardener, cardboard becomes something close to magic. Modern corrugated cardboard is made from recycled fibers and bound with natural starches. That means it breaks down safely in the soil without leaving harmful residue. When it gets damp, those layers begin to soften and create a network of tiny air pockets, perfect homes for the living things that make compost thrive. Bacteria, fungi, and earthworms see cardboard not as trash, but as a buffet of carbon and shelter. A few summers ago, I helped an older couple, Janet and Paul, transform their struggling backyard. They couldn't lift heavy compost bins or turn piles anymore, so we tried a simple cardboard layering system right on the ground. Within weeks, the earthworms came so many that the soil almost shimmered with life. By the next planting season, their tomatoes were the size of softballs. Paul laughed and said, "Who knew the answer was hiding in our Amazon boxes?" Compared to straw or wood chips, cardboard holds moisture beautifully without turning into a swamp. It absorbs water like a sponge, but still lets oxygen flow through. That's why decomposition happens faster. It keeps the microbes happy and the environment balanced. What's remarkable is that it costs nothing and reduces waste at the same time. So the next time you unbox a package, pause for a moment. You might be holding not just cardboard, but the key to richer soil, stronger roots, and a gentler way of giving back to the earth. Sometimes the smallest acts, like laying down a sheet of brown paper, can create the biggest change beneath our feet. Every great garden project starts with a foundation, and in cardboard composting, that first layer is everything. Think of it as laying the soft, steady heartbeat beneath your future soil. You'll want clean, plain brown cardboard, no glossy coatings, no colored prints, no plastic tape or staples. This keeps everything natural, just as the earth intended. Start by tearing or cutting the cardboard into two kinds of pieces. Some large flat sheets will serve as your base, while smaller crumpled strips will weave through later layers. This combination creates both structure and airflow, giving your compost pile strength and breathability. If your hands aren't as nimble as they used to be, don't worry, this doesn't require perfection. Even uneven pieces will do the job beautifully. Lay the large sheets directly on the soil. This forms a strong foundation and helps block weeds while retaining moisture. Then take a watering can or hose and soak the cardboard completely. Dry cardboard naturally repels water, but once it's soaked, it transforms into a flexible sponge-like material. You can think of this as setting the mood of your compost. It should feel damp, like a wrung-out towel, never soggy or dry. A helpful rule of thumb is to use about 2 gallons of water for every square yard of cardboard. You'll notice the smell of damp paper mixing with the earth. It's a small, satisfying moment that reminds us how something simple can feel sacred. I've always believed that gardening is a dialogue, and this is your first conversation with the soil. You're telling it, "I'm ready to nourish you." Once your foundation is in place, take a moment to admire it. It doesn't look like much now, but within weeks it will begin to breathe, to change, to give back. The ground beneath you is already preparing for life. Once your soaked cardboard foundation is ready, the real fun begins layering. Gardeners often call this the lasagna method, and it's as comforting and forgiving as the name suggests. You'll be stacking different materials, each one feeding the next, creating a living system that almost takes care of itself. Start with your greens, which are nitrogen-rich materials like kitchen scraps, coffee grounds, or freshly cut grass. Spread them evenly over your wet cardboard base, aiming for a layer about 4 inches thick. Don't pack it down, let it rest naturally. Then cover it with a layer of smaller damp pieces of cardboard. This second layer locks in the moisture and balances out the nitrogen from your greens with the carbon that cardboard provides. Repeat this rhythm: greens, cardboard, like verses in a song. You don't need to measure or calculate ratios. The beauty of this system lies in its flexibility. Some weeks you might have more kitchen scraps, other times more cardboard. Nature doesn't mind. She's patient and knows how to find balance if you simply give her the materials. If your hands tire easily, build in short sessions. There's no rush. Composting isn't a race, it's a partnership. I once met a widower named Henry who told me he built his compost pile the same way he used to build his wife's favorite lasagna, slowly, layer by layer, with care and memory. By the time it was done, he said it smelled like home. Each layer should be moist like a sponge, not drenched. If you see steam on cool mornings, that's a good sign your compost is alive and working. Over time, these layers will soften into each other, turning into a dark, crumbly mix that smells like a forest floor after rain. It's proof that patience, not perfection, grows the best gardens. The secret that separates sluggish compost from living, breathing soil comes down to 2 simple things: air and water. It sounds easy, but most compost piles fail because they dry out or compact too tightly. Cardboard solves both problems beautifully if you know one small trick. Instead of laying every piece flat, try crumpling or lightly folding some of your cardboard. Those little ridges and pockets you create act like natural vents, allowing oxygen to move freely through the pile. Air is what keeps decomposition aerobic, meaning clean, balanced, and odor-free. Without it, the process slows and your compost can turn sour. But when oxygen flows, microorganisms flourish. They work faster, breaking down material with a rhythm as steady as a heartbeat. Now let's talk about moisture. Too dry and the microbes go dormant. Too wet and you suffocate them. The goal is balance, a pile that feels like a wrung-out sponge. When in doubt, add a little water each time you build a layer. A gentle spray with a hose or watering can works best. I like to think of this step as giving your compost a drink the same way you'd water a thirsty friend. Last summer, my neighbor George, an 82-year-old retired mechanic, showed me his cardboard compost behind the shed. He chuckled as he crumpled the pieces in his weathered hands. These wrinkles, he said, they're what make it breathe. His compost pile, soft and dark, smelled like a walk in the woods after rain. It was thriving, all because he treated it with the same care he once gave his engine's steady air, steady flow. So let your pile breathe. Don't rush it. Every layer you add is another chance for life to stir beneath the surface, turning yesterday's scraps into tomorrow's harvest. If there's one sign that your compost is truly alive, it's when the earthworms move in. They don't come by accident. They come because you've built a home that welcomes them. Damp, layered cardboard feels like paradise to them, soft enough to burrow through, rich enough to feed on, and cool enough to keep them safe. Once they arrive, the magic begins to multiply. Earthworms are nature's quiet laborers. They tunnel through your compost pile, breaking down cardboard and kitchen scraps as they go, leaving behind castings, the black, crumbly material that gardeners call black gold. These castings are filled with nutrients that plants can absorb immediately. You'll notice your pile shrinking faster, the texture turning darker and finer. That's your sign the worms are working. I remember visiting my Aunt Martha's garden one spring. She's in her 70s now and can't lift heavy tools anymore, but her compost pile was thriving like never before. She showed me her cardboard layers teeming with worms, smiling as if she'd just found buried treasure. "They do all the work for me," she said softly. And she was right. Within a few months, her soil became so rich, she barely needed fertilizer. The beauty of this method is that the worms come naturally. You don't have to buy or move them. When the conditions are right, moist, cool, and well aerated, they simply appear drawn from the soil beneath. It's nature's way of rewarding your patience. So when you see the first worm wriggling through your compost, pause for a moment. It's a small miracle. Proof that your garden isn't just surviving, it's alive, growing, and returning your kindness tenfold. Let the worms work. They know the rhythm of renewal better than we ever could. Give your cardboard compost just a little time, perhaps a season or two, and the results will make you smile every time you step into the garden. What once looked like torn boxes and kitchen scraps transforms into a soft, rich soil that smells faintly sweet, like the forest floor after rain. This is living soil, dark, crumbly, and full of energy. When you run it through your fingers, it feels like silk mixed with memory. Gardeners who try this often see changes they can hardly believe. Vegetable beds become more fertile, holding moisture longer and producing stronger, healthier plants. Tomato vines grow thicker, lettuce leaves stay crisp even under summer sun, and flowers bloom in colors that seem to last longer. Some gardeners report yields up to 40% higher than before simply because their soil has come alive. I remember Mary, a soft-spoken widow from our gardening club. She had struggled with hard clay soil for years. Every spring, she'd fight to dig her beds and watch her plants struggle. After trying cardboard composting for 1 year, she invited me over. Her backyard was transformed. The soil crumbled easily under her trowel, and her beans stretched toward the sky like they'd been waiting for this moment. "It's like they're breathing better," she said with a laugh. But perhaps the most remarkable change isn't what you see above the ground. It's what's happening beneath. That rich layer of compost becomes a thriving city for microbes, fungi, and worms, all working together to balance nutrients and defend against disease. Even pest problems lessen because healthy soil grows resilient plants. The proof is there in every leaf, every bloom. It's the quiet reward for your patience, the garden's way of saying, "Thank you for trusting the slow, gentle power of nature." When you give cardboard back to the earth, it doesn't just vanish. It transforms your soil from the inside out. As those fibers decompose, they leave behind thousands of tiny tunnels, each one improving how water and air move through the ground. Clay soil, which used to bake hard and crack in the sun, becomes loose and welcoming. Sandy soil, which once couldn't hold water, starts to retain moisture longer. It's as if the earth itself learns to breathe again. Over time, this process builds what gardeners call living soil. That means your soil isn't just dirt, it's a complex, thriving ecosystem. Beneficial bacteria and fungi feed on the cardboard's carbon, slowly releasing nutrients your plants can actually use. Roots grow deeper and stronger because they have the room and nourishment they need. Even when drought or heat waves come, plants in living soil stay greener longer, their roots protected by a network of tiny life forms working quietly below. I once visited a small urban garden where an older couple had used nothing but cardboard composting for 2 years. Their raised beds looked ordinary, but the soil was astonishing, dark, rich, and fluffy like chocolate cake. They told me they hadn't bought fertilizer or soil amendments in over a year. "We just feed the soil," the husband said, "and it feeds us back." That simple truth sums it up beautifully. Cardboard composting doesn't just fix a problem, it creates a legacy. It lays down the groundwork for years of growth, resilience, and fertility. You're not only enriching your plants today, you're shaping the garden's future. Every sheet of cardboard you lay down is a quiet promise that the earth will always remember your care and repay it in kind. Every year, the average household throws away mountains of cardboard cereal boxes, shipping cartons, packaging from online orders. It piles up without much thought, bound for recycling centers or landfills. But what if instead of discarding it, you turned that so-called waste into one of the most valuable resources your garden could ever have? That's the hidden power of cardboard composting. It transforms clutter into nourishment. It's easy to forget that every cardboard box began as a tree. Returning it to the earth closes a circle, restoring something of what was once taken. When you compost cardboard, you're not just saving space in your recycling bin, you're honoring that tree's life by letting it nurture new growth. For older gardeners especially, that kind of continuity feels deeply satisfying. You're giving nature back a gift she gave you long ago. My friend Tom, a retired mail carrier, once told me he started saving every delivery box that came to his door. Instead of tossing them, he stacked them behind his garage, soaked them down, and built small compost patches around his yard. It's like planting boxes, he joked. Within a year, his vegetable beds were thriving, his water bills dropped, and his waste output had been cut in half. He smiled and said, "Feels good to make something out of nothing again." When you compost your cardboard, you're joining a quiet movement towards simpler, wiser living. It's not about chasing trends. It's about reconnecting with what's real. Less waste, richer soil, a cleaner conscience. Each time you lay a piece of cardboard on the ground, you're doing something gentle but powerful, choosing renewal over waste, purpose over habit. What once cluttered your garage can now fill your garden with life. That's the kind of recycling no factory can compete with. One of the most beautiful things about cardboard composting is that anyone can do it, truly anyone. You don't need to lift heavy bins, turn piles, or invest in special tools. All you need is a bit of cardboard, a watering can, and a corner of soil. That's what makes this method so perfect for seniors or anyone with limited mobility. It honors the hands that have already spent years nurturing life, offering an easier way to keep creating beauty without strain or exhaustion. If bending is difficult, you can build your layers right on raised beds or even inside large planters. The process is gentle tear, soak, and layer, and it invites mindfulness. You can work slowly, taking breaks, letting the rhythm of the task soothe rather than tire you. Many gardeners say it feels meditative, like knitting or tending to a quiet fire. It's a reminder that gardening isn't about speed, it's about presence. I remember visiting Mrs. Eleanor, a 78-year-old widow who used to have a sprawling vegetable patch but downsized after her knees began to ache. She started composting right in her planter boxes, using bits of cardboard and kitchen scraps. When I saw her garden months later, her herbs were lush and fragrant, her soil dark and alive. She smiled and said, "It's the first time in years I've gardened without pain." Cardboard composting brings back that sense of independence and pride. You don't need youth or strength, just a willingness to keep creating. The earth doesn't care about age, it only responds to care. Each layer you build, no matter how small, is an act of renewal. And for many older gardeners, it's a way to stay connected to the soil, to the seasons, and to a sense of purpose that never fades. Give it one full season, dear friend. Just one. Lay your cardboard, add your scraps, keep the layers moist, and wait. You'll notice little signs that something miraculous is happening beneath the surface. Maybe the first earthworms appear. Maybe you notice the soil darkening around the edges. Or maybe you just sense it, the feeling that life is quietly stirring where once there was waste. By mid-season, your garden will begin to respond. Plants will grow deeper roots. Leaves will look fuller, colors richer. You might not even realize at first that it's the compost working its magic. It just feels as if the whole garden has taken a long, contented breath. I remember one summer when I tried cardboard composting behind my porch. I didn't expect much, but by August, my sunflowers were towering over the fence, and the scent of damp earth filled the air each morning. It felt like the garden was thanking me. There's something sacred about watching transformation happen slowly. You can't rush it or buy it. It's nature's quiet reply to your patience and care. And when you scoop up that first handful of finished compost, dark, crumbly, and alive, you'll understand why gardeners call it black gold. It's not just nutrients, it's time, love, and trust made visible. Even your neighbors might notice. They'll ask what you've done differently, how your flowers seem brighter, your vegetables bigger. And you'll smile thinking of those plain brown boxes that once held groceries or gifts now reborn as nourishment. The cardboard becomes a symbol, a reminder that nothing in life is truly wasted if we give it a second purpose. Give it one season, and you'll see more than a garden change. You'll see yourself reflected in the soil, resilient, resourceful, and quietly blooming again. When you step into your garden after a few months of cardboard composting, you might notice something subtle yet profound. The soil feels warmer, softer beneath your shoes. The plants stand taller, their leaves glistening with morning dew. There's a peace that lingers here, a sense that you and the earth have found your rhythm again. The truth is, gardening has never been about fancy equipment or perfect systems. It's always been about relationship. Cardboard composting reminds us of that truth. It asks us to see value in what others overlook, to slow down and let time do its gentle work. Each piece of cardboard you lay is a small act of faith, a way of saying, I trust nature to know what to do. There's wisdom in that kind of simplicity. In a world that tells us to buy more, hurry, more, control more, here's a method that says do less, trust more. And that's not just good gardening advice, it's good life advice. We learn through the soil that transformation doesn't come from force, it comes from care, patience, and giving what we have. Before you toss your next box into the recycling bin, pause for a moment. Think about what it could become. With nothing more than a few layers and a little water, you can create something that feeds your plants, your soul, and the planet all at once. So, my dear friend, may your cardboard piles hum quietly with life. May your garden surprise you with color, abundance, and joy. And may you always remember your hands, no matter their age, still hold the power to create beauty from what was once discarded. Until next time, happy gardening, and may your soil be forever alive beneath your feet.